Alright guys, now let's work on how we can update and delete our post. So at first let's work on this update post or either stories. So when I click this button, I want a new page to be opened and the ID of this post should be printed here. Okay, so in here I'm going to close this, and inside this post let's make a new component called edit post. Okay, so we are going to make a new route inside this app.jsx. I'm going to duplicate this one and it should be edit post. Okay, and we are going to get the post ID, but the component should be edit post. Okay, we have this edit post imported here. Okay, so now I'm going to open this actions, and in here, if you remember, we have this reusable button. So up here I'm going to import navigation from use navigate. Okay, and for this function we are going to pass this navigate, and it will direct us to /edit post / our post ID. So we are going to get the post ID here. So now we need to pass this post ID from the single post component post ID, and let's open the single post component here. As you can see, we have the component, and let's pass this post ID here. Okay, so I'm gonna close this here, and inside this action we need to pass this onClick function here equal to click. Okay, so now if I click this edit story, you can see I will be redirected to this new component, and this is the single post ID. Okay, so now let's see what we have inside it. As you can see, we are going to have our input to print the title here, and we are going to have our text area. Okay, so I'm gonna open this edit post again. Let's change this to be section. Okay, so we are going to have a class name, right class, which should be 90% for mobile version. For MD devices above, which should be 80%. For load devices above, width should be 60%. Okay, and it should be MX auto. Padding Y should be 3 rem. Now inside here, at first let's have our input type text, and placeholder should be this title. Okay, and also let's have a class name of text for Excel. Outline should be none, and width is going to be full. Okay, now let's import our text editor. We're going to have a placeholder here, and the placeholder is going to be description. Okay, and also we need to have a class name for this. We are going to change the text size to be 4 rem, and also margin Y is going to be 3. Okay, and also the theme should be bubble. Okay, as you can see, here is the title and this one is the description. Okay, so as you can see, we need to have a button inside our header again. So to print this button, we need to target this post edit inside our header. So when we are inside this route, we want to display this button. So again, I'm going to open this home header here. Okay, and if you remember, we had this path name. So if I console log this path name here, okay, and let's inspect the browser here. As you can see, here is the path name, but we need to exclude this ID from here. So what we need to do is, I'm going to write here const and edit path. So at first we need to make an array of path names. So I'm gonna split it. Okay. Now if I console log this edit path here, now you can see we have this all letters as one element of this array. So let's remove the slashes. So I'm gonna split it based on this slash. Now you can see we don't have that slash anymore, but instead we have only 3 items inside the array. So if you remember, inside array we can target each and every property by adding their index. So if I write here 1, now you can see I will have access to the second index of this array. So now our path is ready. Okay, so down here, as you can see, we already have this condition. So we are going to add a new condition here. So I'm going to delete this for now, and I'm going to say if edit path is equal to this edit post, then I want to print a new button here, and the text should be edit. Okay, otherwise I want to print this link. Okay, as you can see we have this right because we are inside the single post, but if I open this edit story, now you can see we have this edit button here. And also if I open this right here, you can see we have this publish button. Okay, so I'm gonna open this edit story here. And now let's style this edit button. So in here I'm gonna give a class name here. Let's add this button, and it will be the same as this one, and the text should be save and update. Okay, now you can see here is our button. So now let's get their values. I'm going to have a new visited hook. Let's close this component. I don't need this anymore. So I'm going to have a visited hook for the title. Okay, and also for the description. Okay, so let's have a value here and an unchanged function. Okay, let's pass the value here also, and the unchanged should be this set description. Alright, so now when I click this button and open this page, I want the value of the single post to be printed here. So for that we need to have a new update variable inside the context API. So I'm going to open this context API here. So this context, and up here we need to have a user-state hook. I'm gonna call this update data and set update data. Okay, and the value should be this empty object by default. Okay, now let's pass them through this value down here. Okay, and at first we need to open our single post because we need to pass our post data there, okay, to our action component. So I'm going to open the single post here, and beside this post ID we are going to send our single post data here. So we just need this title and description. Okay, so title is equal to title and description is equal to the description. Okay, now let's get them here. So when we click this button, we want to send this data to our update user-state hook. So I'm going to get this from our context API. So up here we are going to get it from this block function. Okay, So now we need to make a new function. Instead of passing this through this onClick, we need to have a new function. So I'm gonna call this handle edit, let's say. Okay, and in here I'm going to copy this navigate from here, and instead let's call this handle edit. Okay, and beside this we are going to set this update data to be title and also description to be this desk. Alright, so now I'm going to open this edit post. Okay, and inside here we are going to get that context API also. So I'm gonna get this update data here, and it's coming from block. So before we do anything, I just console log this update data to check whether we have any data here or not. So I'm gonna define a new use effect hook, and let's just console log this update data. Okay, I'm gonna inspect the browser here, and if I try to open this edit post, okay, we have an error here. Okay, don't worry about this complaining because I have passed this empty string here. So let's change this to be a function, console log. Okay, it's complaining because I have passed this empty string to our function. Alright, now we don't have that error. So if I open this edit story, now you can see here is our data that we received from our single post. So all we need to do is we need to pass this data to our empty input and this text editor. So what we need to do is we need to set a condition here. I'm going to say if we have update data, then we just simply set the title to be update.title, update data.title, and also set the description to be update data.description. Okay, we need to pass this update data. Now you can see we could successfully print the data inside our input and text editor. Okay, so now we need to implement the update functionality and save it using this button. So because our button is located inside this header, we should do that either inside our context file or inside our home header file. So for now I'm gonna do this update function inside this header. So I'm going to open our header component again. Let's open this header. Okay, so up here we need to define a new function. I'm gonna call this handle edit. Okay, and this function should be asynchronous function. We need to have a try and catch block here. Okay, so I'm gonna have a new loading here for updating our data. I'm gonna have a loading and set loading. It will be false by default. Okay, so inside here I'm gonna set the loading to be true, and finally set this loading to be false. Alright, so now we need to get our updated data from the context API. So in here I'm gonna say update data. Let's make sure we have the same name here. Okay, we have this, and inside here let's first define our reference. So we need to import this doc. Okay, and the first argument is db. Let's add our collections name, which is post, and specifically this post ID. So the post ID is, I'm gonna just call here post ID, and if you remember, if I get the second index of this array or the third index, because the array starts from 0, if we get the second or third index of our array, it will be our post ID. If you don't believe me, let's console log this post ID here. Okay, and now you can see here is our ID coming from here. So all we need to do is just pass this ID. Okay, so down here we need to write await and update doc function. Let's pass our ref, and following that we need to pass our data. Okay, so now inside here we are going to just change the title to be our update data dot title, and the description to be our update data dot description. Okay, and that's it. Now let's have our navigate here. So I'm going to have our navigate is coming from use navigate hook. So when the post is updated, we want to be navigated to our single post. So I'm gonna call this /post, and let's add our post ID here again, post ID. Okay, and also we are going to send a push notification post has been updated. And finally, let's pass this function to our button here. So I'm gonna add this on click function here, and in here we're going to set a condition. If we have loading, we are gonna print this updating text here, otherwise we wanna print this text. Okay, let's add this inside the string, and for this class name we can set a condition also. So I'm going to say if we have loading, I can set this opacity to be, let's say, 40. Okay, otherwise I want to be this empty string. Okay guys, we made a mistake here because this is not the updated data. So the updated data should come from our new use state hooks. So what we need to do is, I'm going to copy them from here. Okay, and we need to move that to our context API, so we can pass this to our home header component and to our edX component. Okay, so I'm going to paste them here, and now let's pass it through our value. Okay, so beside this update data, I'm going to pass them here. Okay, so now we are going to get them from our context API. Okay, so what we need to do is we just get this title and the description from our context API inside our home header. So inside here, instead of this update data, we are going to get our title and description. Okay, so now in here we just change this title, just leave it title. Okay, you don't need to reassign it because the names are the same, and this should be our description. Okay, and now we will have our new data. So now let's check whether our function is working or not. So down here, let's write updated, and I'm gonna write here this is updated. Okay, let's make it bold, and this one italic. If I click this button, you can see we have this loading and our post has been updated. Now you can see we have this updated text here, and also inside the description we have this updated text. Alright guys, we just finished how we can update the post. Now let's work on how we can delete a post. So I'm gonna close this header, this context. Okay, so inside this action we have another button. For that we need to make a new function here. I'm gonna call this handle remove. Okay, and let's pass this function here. Alright, now let's have our try and catch block here. Okay, so let's have our reference again, and it's gonna be doc. Let's import this doc function db, our post collection, and following that we need to send our post ID. Okay, so I'm going to write here await, and this function should be asynchronous function. And let's have this delete doc function and just pass this ref here. Okay, so when the post is deleted, we need to send a push notification dot success. We are going to say post has been removed. Okay, and also we need to navigate him to the main page. So I'm going to write here navigate slash. Okay, and for this error message I'm going to send this notification error dot message. Okay, so now let's check it. So if I click this delete story, now you can see my post has been removed, and we have this push notification here also. Alright guys, the post has been deleted, but we have an error here. You can see only my post data has been deleted, but those sub collections are still inside my database. You can see I had 4 comments, they are exist here, and I had some likes, only 1 like, and it still exists here. So now to solve this problem, we need to remove both of them from our database also. So following this, we need to have a ref for like. So like ref. Okay, and we need to target the sub collection likes. Okay, and also we need to have another ref for our comment, and this should be comments. Okay, so now let's have a separate delete function for both of them. Okay, so now let's check it. So let's remove the swimming and aquatic journey of health. So let's find it inside our database, and you can see this is the swimming post. Okay, so now let's check whether we have some likes and comments inside or not. So we don't have any, so let's add, and I'm gonna say nice post. So we have 1 like and 1 comment here. Let's check it inside the database. Okay, and you can see we have 1 comment and 1 like here. So if I try to delete this post, okay, document reference must have an event. Okay, so we need to pass our current user ID here. So now let's get our current user here. Okay, so current user.uid and also current user.uid here. Now let's check it again. So if I try to delete this, okay, it's working. Okay, now you can see we don't have that post with their sub collections anymore, and that's it. So if you want, you can remove the saved post also. Okay, so maybe the user have saved your post and it will not be deleted if you don't delete that yourself. So let's have the sub collection for saved post also. So save ref, and this should be save post, or it was save post. Okay, and this sub collection should be users because the saved sub collection is located inside our users collection, and this should be current user.uid, and also this one should be saved post, and we're going to print the post id here. Okay, so let's have another delete function and pass this one. Okay guys, and that's it. So this is how you can remove a post from your database. Now let's push this code here. So I'm going to say, alright,